Welcoming Suraj Patel to the show. He is running in New York's 12th district for Congress. The incumbent there is Carolyn Maloney. So first of all, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
First question is why? Why run against a Democratic incumbent?
What a missed opportunity it would be if we let these kinds of safe, heavily progressive, heavily influential and educated districts not be leading the way boldly and progressively with policy. I'm challenging in this district because Democrats don't challenge each other enough, that we are so complacent in some of our safest seats that we're missing a massive opportunity to lead intellectually and form the basis of like a sound, future-oriented progressive policy. And it maybe was good enough, 10 years ago or 5 years ago to just serve in these seats. But this last election shows us that unless Democrats start really being boldly progressive and giving people something to vote for, an agenda to vote for, that we're missing a big opportunity. So I just don't believe that it's okay to issue the right press release and take good votes on bad bills and lose, and then do like I don't know, and move on. And so we don't have the luxury to be complacent anymore.
So do I have this right? Is this district so blue that there's not even a Republican candidate in the race?
That's exactly right. So blue, no announced Republican candidate. Huge Hillary turnout or margin. I can't remember what the exact number is, like 80% or something. So yeah, I mean, this is like one of the bluest districts in America.
And how about Carolyn Maloney, the incumbent? What about her do you find not progressive enough?
Well, look, the main issue for me is reforming our democracy, right? The representation we have in this country is significantly misrepresentative of the population as a whole. It's much more conservative than we are. And that's because of gerrymandering, because of voter suppression, and because of the corrosive influence of money in politics. Now, I can't believe that someone who hasn't had a progressive challenge in 24 years, nor a Republican challenger, still takes corporate PAC money from the very same industries she regulates, Wall Street, primarily, and real estate and stuff like that, and healthcare. And I just don't understand how you can say you're for overturning Citizens United, but then take corporate PAC money and then regulate Wall Street with kid gloves. She also voted for the Iraq War and more recently against the Iran deal. Now, that puts her in league with Donald Trump and not with Barack Obama on the Iran deal. And I just don't understand what kind of person would want that judgment to want to give someone like Donald Trump the discretion on renegotiating a nuclear deal is beyond me. And then I think one last thing I'd say, the era of triangulation in the Democratic Party ends with our generation. That the 1994 crime bill that put mandatory minimums and sort of signaled to the rest of the country to throw the key at so many people. 1 out of every 6 black males are put in prison by the time or incarcerated or on parole by the time they're 30 in this country. That is not a reflection of our generation's values. It's not a reflection of what the Democratic Party should be. We triangulated to look tough on crime. That's a stain in our legacy. She voted for that bill, and that generation of Democrats did. And then the same one, 1996 immigration bill. ICE is now a 50-state deportation squad, thanks to the discretion Donald Trump has to using this border security and customs enforcement force as his own terrorizing sort of 50-state mass deportation squad. And I was one of the first candidates. I was the first candidate in New York to call for a full defunding of ICE if Democrats take back the House in November. And it's because it's a moral imperative. If we know that the president is a racist and he's going to use this tool in a way that is arbitrary and capricious and that is race-based, that we ought to not give that to him. And so he's only using tools Congress gives him, and we ought not to give it back to him. These are things that Carolyn Maloney and I definitely disagree on, and you should ask her on your show.
Okay, well, I'd love to. Maybe we could do that.
Yeah.
So I know that you're animated on the immigration issue. You volunteered as an attorney to protect immigrants facing deportation on the Muslim ban. So I'm just going to guess based on your name that you were probably born Hindu, and people might not know, but in the old world, Hindus and Muslims have rocky relationship. So in a sense, I guess Trump has brought us together, right? as you go out there fighting for Muslim Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that's his one positive legacy. He found a solution to a 2,000-year problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What motivated you to jump out there and do that?
Well, look, I'm a first-generation American. My family moved here from India about in staggered places. My great uncle moved here in 1960. A few years later, he called his brother over, and then then they called their wives over, and then my dad eventually in 1970. And so, really, long story short, I am the end of a long line of chain migrants, otherwise known as a family. And this is a near and dear issue to my heart, these social justice issues especially. But I think we, have an obligation to protect the most marginalized in our societies, and we circle the wagons around the ones that are being attacked by their own government and by forces of hate. And in this case, this president clearly shows a profound disregard and a lack of respect for our Muslim brothers and sisters who have every right to be in this country just like you and I do. The First Amendment guarantees that. We don't impose religious tests on people here. And so we're going to circle the wagons for the people that they're coming for. And so I thought that was obviously a really important issue when that came down. And I live near JFK, and I'm an attorney by training, and I decided to head out there and be part of the ACLU's effort just for 1 weekend. But it was pretty crazy, but that's just the world we live in right now. We've got to all roll up our sleeves and do something.
So Suraj, I don't doubt your education because I see here that you studied political science at Stanford. You got your law degree at NYU, which is a great law school, and you got a scholarship at Cambridge, and the list goes on and on. But I'm sure the audience is wondering, as they do in all of these races, you made your case against Carolyn Maloney, but how do we know you're the most progressive in the race overall? Because there are other Democrats.
I believe that it's only going to be two of us in this race. So I'm definitely more progressive than her. And look, I mean, I worked for both. I went to law school at NYU. I was super inspired and left to join the Obama campaign, first as a community field organizer, and then doing advance, flying around and helping set up events and rallies and stuff like that. I understand the power of a positive movement for social change. I understand how people react when we include more people in the process, when we listen to people and give them something to vote for rather than a lot of things to vote against. And that seems to be lacking, generally speaking. I'm looking at, this whole year after the last election, I helped start an organization called The Arena to get young people to jump in the political arena. We thought there was a dearth of authentic progressive voices running for office. And over the course of the year, I'm sitting there watching as people are launching candidacies and seeing how consultants from the DCCC and DNC surround even good, legitimate candidates, and then put them in a box to raise a ton of money and blow it all on TV and mail 6 weeks out before the election with their affiliated buddy mail and TV firms and all of that. And I realized, wow, the way we do politics is broken. We take real progressives and beat that out of them by the time they get out the other side in November. And it leads to a very uninspiring politics that leads to 26% of America giving us Donald Trump, with about half of America so checked out they don't even bother to vote because they have nothing to be voting for. And to put it in perspective, Cenk, this district that I'm in, the only election of consequence is the primary. And yet, last two cycles, approximately 8% of people decided to go out and vote in the primary. Now we're talking about a free activity on a beautiful June 26th morning that takes 15 minutes of your time, and you can't even go do that because so many people feel so uninspired, so checked out, and removed from politics that they can't go make a decision, or don't go make a decision. And it's just, if the status quo, if the establishment is satisfied with an 8% type turnout of that few voices, and only one person is selling policy the whole time in this marketplace, that's just not an establishment and a status quo that I find acceptable, right? And I think we just have to have more voices and more people. Now, I'm giving New York, for the first time in a quarter century, a progressive choice. That none of these folks who who occupy some of these districts in touching Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens have even had a legitimate challenger, let alone a legitimate progressive challenger, ever. I think Carol Maloney's only ever had one primary challenger in 2010. That was actually a serious challenger, well funded, all those kinds of things. And that person challenged her as on a pro Wall Street platform after TARP. And so really New York hasn't had a choice, a true progressive choice.
So Suraj, we're out of time, so I'm going to do yes and no on these policy positions real quick. Medicare for all.
Yes.
Taking money out of politics, not taking corporate cash.
Done.
Pathway to citizenship for dreamers.
Obviously, and the other 11 million undocumented immigrants living in this country.
Legalization of marijuana.
Yep.
And how about one last one that's harder than a yes or no? Term limits.
I am supportive of term limits. I don't know what that length is right off the top of my head, and we've been talking about and kicking around putting out that policy. But I am a fan of term limits. I don't believe anybody should be turning themselves into a career politician in the same office and getting comfortable and complacent because of it. I personally, think that 8 years in 4 congressional terms is sufficient. And if you're not accomplishing more after that, and this is the thing. Like, I don't know whether that's 2 terms for Senate and 4 terms for House or what. But yes, I am for term limits, and we're open to listening to arguments about what that length ought to be.
All right. So it's out of the box thinking. I like it, and you're giving people a different choice, which I appreciate as well. To me, you're absolutely right about one thing, undoubtedly, although I agree with you on many things, which is primaries are monumentally important. And that's where you get to make real decisions. By the time you get to the general election, it's almost always a false choice. So everybody check out the links here, surajpatel.nyc, that's the website, surajpatel.nyc. And then you got the donation link and the volunteer link. Those are all really important. And those links are all at the bottom of the video, in the description box on YouTube, in the comment section on Facebook. Suraj Patel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.